There is nothing more powerful than the old lick, lick, and hit. A land filled with awe-inspiring, terrifying, beautiful creatures. There is nothing quite like the Monster Hunter world. Hello, my fellow hunters, and welcome to this, the next chapter in the chronicling of all things monster. Today, the nature of the beast, Brachydios. Let us add to our research notes and capture the father of blast, the master of slime, and the owner of my heart. Yes, he and his variant take the top spot when it comes to me and my favorite monsters, but I will not let that color today's academic investigation in any way. Brachydios, then, is a brute wyvern, a theropod, dinosaur-esque frame, bipedal of course, and all about punching. His arms are his strength. They do have tiny little itty-bitty pair claws nestled under each pounder. They aren't really much good. They can be used for basic scratching and grasping, but they're certainly not hunting tools or anything of the like. He is a walking counterbalance. His horn and pounders are quite forward heavy, and his club tail backwards heavy to allow him to remain agile. And agile he is. He is on the smaller side for a brute wyvern, but he makes up for it with explosive power and fast, graceful, lithe steps. He very much goes to the school of boxing, weaving left and right and landing blow after blow. He can jump colossal distances and is an all-round, ferociously, brutally effective fighter. And fighter really is the word to describe a Brachydios. He does not give ground, he does not back down, and even without deploying his signature weapon, he can stand toe-to-toe with the raw might of something like a Tigrex, an apex predator famed for its strength, and indeed Brachydios himself is apex also. He can roam, his skin acts as a thermos-like insulator, allowing him to withstand a great cold and great hot. This gives him the freedom of choice when it comes to his environment, and lets him do something very unique, and that is spread slime mold far and wide, because the more slime mold there is in the world, the happier every Brachydios does become. So while there is a lot to say on him and his body, his ebony shell, its luster bright, highly explosive and impact resistant, similar to a basil's, adept at dissipating force and rendering blast waves inert, allowing him to, well, slime up with reckless impunity. But talking of slime up, and we will be talking about sliming up a lot. Let's, well, slime up. See, Brachydios is covered in green, but you may ask, what is that green? Well, it is simply known as slime mold. Now, slime mold is kind of a real thing. It exists. It's a very simple organism, and it grows. Now, it is capable of growing in the correct direction to find food sources, but generally speaking, it simply expands, consuming dead microorganisms and matter across forest floors, all consuming in its wake. It exists to propagate and duplicate, and it does so very very effectively. Well, we take this, we scale it up, we make it quite literally explosive, and now we're talking as far as a Brachydios is concerned. See, the slime mold in Monster Hunter, it grows deep underground, and when there is a crustal movements, earthquakes, shakes, even just the crack and quake of monsters fighting and the ground being torn up, pockets of it can get released and now flood into the air. But when met with air, it has a little bit of a reaction. See, the slime mold goes to the school of, the best way to spread our spores, I think, is just fucking explode them everywhere! And hey, you can't take it away from it, it gets the job done. So it will start reacting with said air, changing hues from green to yellow to orange to red, and then pop everywhere. And wherever it lands, all of those spores will start gestating into new puddles. So this is all well and good, but a Brachydios has the unique ability to form a symbiotic relationship with this slime mold. In exchange for, well, being spread everywhere the Brachydios goes, the slime mold acts as both a defensive shield and an offensive weapon. See, Brachydios possesses a unique ability, actually twofold. The first is that its shell has a calming, inert-like property that prevents the usual explosive reaction that slime mold has to being exposed. It keeps it happy and content, calm on its skin. And then it can grow unabated, reaching critical mass. This then, when Brachydios makes contact with the ground, which it sometimes does to both relieve excess slime when it has just gotten too much and it's not needed to use it yet, this also helps it mark its territory, or when it deliberately goes out of its way to hunt. Brachydios can hunt small creatures without a problem, but large ones, well, they require the help of the slime, coating the would-be aggressor in it. And its would-be aggressor, if not a rival Brachydios, and indeed, when it comes to rival Brachydios, more slime is best. The Brachy with the largest and most impressive slime collection wins the mate and defends its territory, which I find absolutely brilliant. Hey baby, you seen how much slime I got on my skin? Oh. Anyway, we have a case where even something like an Uragan, a monster living in harsh volcanic environments, a monster also resistant to explosions and flame, get, well, help me, destroyed by the chain reaction of death that is contact with a Brachydios. See, in order to consistently have enough slime while fighting, while constantly scraping it off onto surfaces to litter the floor with essentially slow detonating mines, and to coat the opponent, well, it needs more slime than it has, which comes into Brachydios' second special ability. That is, that its saliva has a special stimulating enzyme in it that promotes the growth of slime mold, well, forgive me, but explosively. It can make it grow and grow twofold, threefold, fourfold, endlessly as much as it needs. Calming skin, growing saliva. Calming skin, growing saliva. An endless cycle of ammunition to get any given job done. A Brachydios is introduced to slime as a young infant. They aren't naturally initially adjusted to it, they need to learn how to use it, because too much too soon can sadly kill an adolescent Brachydios. It must learn from little leftover bits from its parents, who unfortunately abandon it at quite a young age to fend for itself, but while they are around, it has to get a feel for how much is right and how much is too much. And too much is all too easy to accidentally come to. I really cannot overstate how potent slime explosions are. I mean, I shouldn't have to overstate it, to be fair. If you literally get drenched skin to skin, coated in sticky, hard to remove, slimy liquid that literally point blank against your fleshy body detonates, carving out chunks, rippling force through your body, destroying your organs with the shockwave, I mean, it is easy to see why Brachydios quite literally punches above his weight. He is in contention for the strongest brute wyvern. That honor does go to Devil Joe, but a Devil Joe would certainly come away from a Brachydios hunt with a lot of holes in his body. It's a real deterrent to would-be, well, other rivals in a given territory, because even if you beat the Brachydios, even if you kill him, even if it was easy, have you touched him? Yes? Well, now you're covered in point-blank explosive slime. I hope you're incredibly resistant to fire, heat, and explosions, which not a lot of monsters are. Even something like Agnactor, literally coating its body in magma that hardens into a rocky carapace, gets effortlessly defeated by a Brachydios from mere contact. This really is a perfectly designed creature, and I could wax lyrical about it in front of everyone for days.
Brachydios is the perfect organism. He is powerful and enjoys a perfect symbiosis with perfect slime mold. The mold is explosive!
Thank you all, thank you so much! So, when Brachydios, however, gets just a little bit ticked off, things do change. Once the adrenaline starts pumping, the anger flowing, the body temperature rising, it destabilizes Brachydios' normally calm, neutral self, not just emotionally, but physiology. His shell can no longer quite calm the mold as it used to, with the boiling rage beneath it. This causes it to prime upon him, turning from the usual green to its more orangey state, ready for detonation. This means he no longer leaves puddles of it on the ground, puddles that other creatures can get caught in just through the sheer mass of slime. He instantly explodes any slime that is detached from him. Or more accurately, the slime itself does after it's been, excited so much. This makes him deadlier, yes, as it gives him the ability to quite literally explosively punch his enemies. It does, however, prevent him from coating his enemies in the slime, which can be advantageous all of its own. Brachydios slime is hard to remove, quite literally stickier than blast, and that can be, in certain situations, preferable. But the idea that he is now coated in reactive explosive armor that turns anything against itself cannot be overstated. This does tend to exhaust him, and when he is exhausted, well, he struggles to get as much of that saliva going for the relick application of his pounders, something that Brachydios will do frequently when in combat. The slime itself upon his body, though, is quite literally just sat there, which means it is vulnerable to being removed. Water can dilute it, and indeed you can render a Brachydios slimeless on both horn and pounders. He will lick it back on eventually, but it is an interesting weakness to aquatic species, one that can certainly be exploited, and perhaps a reason that Brachydios doesn't go near water unless it's frozen in the snowy biomes he does frequent. Though, one thing Brachydios must always get credit for, one thing that he is legend for, and he is, as I said at the start, the father of Blast. is the reason it has been wielded and harnessed by the smiths and researchers of the Hunters Guild. The idea to coat blades in this slime, made of Brachydios shell, to give it that same cooling property that we can then turn against other monsters as hunters, each strike cleaving away the slime and causing it to detonate, ergo blast. Over the years, it got homogenized into just normal blast, but it did start out as the slime element, or status, I should say, which I find rather fantastic, and it is a shame that it sort of lost that uniqueness, though Slime Blight is, of course, still unique and much more irritating than regular Blast Blight. And indeed, the slime on each Brachydios is actually unique. It seems to not just exist on the Brachydios, but feed into it in some way, sharing nutrients almost, and each slime is changed by the Brachydios it's on. They all are still the same species, of course, but they take on a sort of imprint of their particular Brachydios host, and it can be used to identify same individuals within the species. This goes a lot further when we look at Raging Brachydios, the Crushing Wyvern's variant. This is a whole other world of power, an Elder Dragon level monster and then some, and colossal in its might. See, there exists deep in volcanoes a slime mold subspecies, for want of a better word, that is much more dangerous, more volatile, more intense, more potent in its exploding. This is even harder to keep calm. Many Brachydios actually can't, but all Brachydios eventually are instinctively drawn to seek it out. When this slime mold emerges, a Brachydios goes to, well, take it on, and it might find that, no, it's not built for it, and ironically can suffer the fate of its young, death to its own slime. Or indeed, not quite its own slime yet. But those Brachydios that are capable, strong enough to adapt to it, to use it, become Raging Brachydios. This slime seemingly affects them psychologically, emotionally, makes them more aggressive, even more ferociously territorial, but it also, well, feeds them in a more literal sense. The nutrient exchange leads to the creation of the immortal reactor, an organ capable of sustaining a Brachydios for a long time, rapidly slowing the natural aging process to the point that they are seemingly immortal, hence the name. Death to injury or defeat, the only real cause of death to a Raging Brachydios. This also causes them to grow to the colossal size that a Raging is compared to its smaller brethren. It loses some agility, but gains monstrous endurance and strength in a worthy trade-off, on top of this special slime mold being so much more potently powerful in its booming. A Raging Brachydios also has a much more literal reactive armor, the slime mold defending its host fiercely by reacting to nearby presence and detonating against his now even sturdier shell to ward them off. This is a much deeper symbiosis, and one that could border on parasitic if the slime is to be a little bit more sinister and powerful than we initially believe. More research from the guild is certainly required into these variants. They are, however, a sight to behold, and sometimes something to be gravely feared. There are not many monsters that can stand toe-to-toe with a Raging Brachydios and live to tell the tale. It has also been recently discovered that when a Raging Brachydios is pushed to its absolute limit, it will actually shed all of the slime, unable to sustain it, and it knows that. This is a final act of desperation to cover the battlefield and take down its aggressor. Now roaring to set off its own shed slime, it will damage itself as much as its opposition. That is how desperate it becomes. And it is something that no one should ever find themselves the witness of, because it will likely be the last thing that you do. This then is Brachydios in all his glory, my favourite monster, and something truly special. Forever made his mark on Monster Hunter, the best brute wyvern in my opinion, but of course the creator of an entire status and something wholly unique in how he functions. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you found it interesting. Let me know what monster you would like to see catalogued in the nature of the beast next. But for now, like if you did indeed enjoy this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.